चिदानंद जी अनम्यूट करके बोल सकते हैं. प्लीज अनम्यूट चिदानंद जी एंड स्पीक.
कर दिया.
ओके, स्टार्ट.
Namaste, good evening friends. We are here to dwell on a very challenging issue. The description and the described. Before we plunge into the issue headlong, let me tell you what makes this topic very important. In this world, from time immemorial, there have been so many philosophies, religious and non-religious, so many belief systems, so many great works, writings, so much of legacy that great minds left behind. Humanity adores them, if not worships them. Vast literature, once more from religious sources, Hindu or Christian, Islamic or Baha'i, Buddhist, etc., or from non-religious sources, various political ideologies, communism, socialism, and so on. Even writers like Shakespeare or Kalidasa, etc., who were not exponents of any religion, but who left behind such literature which is studied even today with great admiration, have influenced the human mind. And what is interesting is a whole lot of such knowledge that has come down the ages, that has come down many centuries, have apparently great models of right living. Everyone is proud of their heritage. Somebody says Gita has the answers to all your problems. Somebody says Tirukural, some 2000-year-old simple work in Tamil, has answers to everything. And then I need not give more examples. From Africa and Australia, from Americas and Asia, everywhere, there are claims. People claim, study this. This has answers to your conflicts. Coming closer to the topic now, by and large, the human mind is conditioned by pictures of what an ideal life is, how we got to be, how we can be. Do this, someone will say, do this every day and you will arrive at this kind of state of mind, that kind of state of mind. There will be heaven on the earth for you. You will undergo transformation, and lot of such claims are made. If practically in every part of the world there have been great seers and mystics and gurus and teachers and illumined people, messiahs, etc., if they have been everywhere in the world, and they have answered all questions of human life. Not today, but long back, humanity should have been free of all problems because all have been answered. All have been answered in the holy books or in the books of wisdom or whatever you call them. But what is the fact of human life? The ground reality of our life is there is as much turmoil today as ever before, if not more than ever before. Are we in shortage, short supply of scholars? There are scholars of Buddhism and Jainism, Christianity and Islam, Vedanta and other, plenty of scholars who have done PhDs and who are guiding also PhDs. Then there are Krishnamurti scholars also, by the way. So we are not in short supply of knowledgeable people. And we receive wonderful messages from them. Today, with this WhatsApp coming into our life, most of us are flooded with messages. Key to happiness, the secret of conflict resolution, blah, blah, goes on. And every one of them seems to be very impressive. Now, I will not delay further getting to the nuts and bolts of the topic. So much that has been said by great minds of the past or even of the present, all that boils down to description. They describe, and what makes them describe a state of mind or a certain outlook apparently is expressed in that description. But when you and I hear that description, and we also own that description, if not like parrots, maybe much better than parrots, but certainly we do not repeat that description with the same insight, with the same state of mind as the so-called illumined ones had. The Buddha gave a description, maybe of a state of no mind, state of no ego center. Shankara said something. That's also a description. The holy scriptures have said things, descriptions. But are the descriptions the same as the described? You may say, why not? If I describe a tennis ball, it is round, it is light, it is filled with air. A few descriptions of a tennis ball are given. With each sentence, you get closer to the actual tennis ball because one sentence says, oh, you want to know what a tennis ball is? It's a spherical structure. Somebody may imagine an iron ball. With another sentence, it's very light. You dismiss the idea of iron ball. You think of maybe plastic or some other. And a third sentence comes along, it's filled with air. And some very good, very skilled person may describe the tennis ball so well that most of us may figure out what this tennis ball, the described, is. In the same way, a state of no jealousy, a state of no violence, a state of universal love, a state of universal brotherhood, all this perhaps can be described, and the description will take us step by step to what actually is described. You and I tend to imagine. However, that is where the problem arises. Maybe I can put it this way. Between the description and the described, there is deception. We get deceived. How? The description is, after all, words. Words are the description. And in the teachings of Sri J. Krishnamurti, he is never tired of pointing out that the word is not the thing. The word is not the thing, and the description is not the described. We must go beyond the word. We must not cling to the words. If we embrace the word, we fall in love with the word. In religious traditions, there are so many chants. In Hebrew or in Arabic, in Sanskrit or in some other language, there are so-called sacred chants, so-called holy chants. And we tend to develop a certain reverence for those chants, for those words, for those sounds, and we hug those words so tightly without knowing what is happening. We may lose sight of, or we first of all may not behold at all what the words are pointing to. So when we say we must go beyond words, the first thing we understand is we must not remain stuck with the word. It is here that we contemplate on this remarkable statement. The description is not the described. The description is words. The description is a certain image that our mind forms. And then there is the fact. I may make an image of ahimsa, and I may even resolve tomorrow morning onwards, I am going to live a life of ahimsa. I may repeat the statement, ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Long back I had seen a comic strip. One of the frames shows somebody is reading a book on non-violence, and that picture shows the man being very excited. Wow, this non-violence is so wonderful. That first frame of the comic strip shows. The second frame of the comic strip shows that a mosquito has meanwhile landed on the desk where this person is holding or almost placing that book on non-violence. The person notices that mosquito and makes a face. I'm reading such a beautiful book on non-violence, and this mosquito is here to spoil the sport. And in the third frame, the last frame, the man holding that book on non-violence is striking on the mosquito with that book itself to finish off that mosquito. The comic strip speaks volumes on the gap between an excitement at a description, a concept, an image, and the fact. The fact of the matter is, even though he was so happy to read those bombastic words about non-violence, the fact of the matter was his heart was filled with so much of anger against that mosquito. So anger and violence were the fact. And non-violence, about which he perhaps read words and words, pages and pages, was the description, was an image. You and I fall in love with certain images. Followers of every religion fall in love with descriptions that they get from their mullahs or their padris or their swamis or their monks or their rabbis. All religions have their teachers, and successful teachers generally are very good in communication. They can make anything very attractive. Successful preachers are able to influence thousands of people in an audience, either to become very calm temporarily or to get into a rage and march towards some place on a mission of destruction. So the human mind can get carried away by a certain description, image. The pursuit of an image, it has been rightly said, leads to conflict. Look at the gap between what the person who was reading a book on non-violence experienced in his mind and what he did with that very book. He used that book on non-violence as the weapon or the tool to try to kill the mosquito. Where there is a gap between what we visualize and what actually is in our bosom, in our heart, it's bound to create many conflicts. It will create illusion. And one of the saddest parts of religions of the world is these religions who perhaps have a lot of good in them, but they have definitely created a lot of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a wide gap between what one preaches and what one does. In Hindi, they call Kathani and Karni. Kathani is what you say. Karni is what you do. जो कहते हैं और जो करते हैं. कहने और करने के बीच बहुत फर्क हो. That is called hypocrisy. Therefore, in the teachings of Krishna ji, which are very mind-boggling to you and me, we listen to him or we read some of his observations and we are quite shaken. What makes us get shaken? Because he points to the truth that even though we have scholarship, what is? That's the very important phrase, right? What is? What actually is in our bosom, on a deeper level in our consciousness, what actually is ruling the roost, what actually is influencing our decisions in challenging circumstances. All of it is called what is. That simple expression made of two words, what is extremely significant. And in the context of this evening's topic, the description of some ideal state description of how we ought to be, how we should be, etc., is capable of taking us away from what is or from the understanding of what is. If we were to pay attention to what actually is, which is not aligned with the description that some wonderful book gave us, some great speaker gave us, some prose or poetry gave us, rather than being hijacked by those descriptions, if we pay attention to what actually is in us, in our bosom, in our thought, word, and deed, the actual way in which I am living has certain things that I can notice. That is what is. The actual way I treat people has certain dimensions which could be called what is. I am actually treating somebody with disrespect, looking down at her, or envying him, etc. Am I aware of the envy that I have about X or Y? Or am I aware of a prejudice that I have towards A or B? Many times we are not, because we have been carried away by some description. So, friends, as we dwell on this topic, what description and our obsession with descriptions does to us or do to us, we realize how in life we are more and more operating in the domain of images. The moment you mention John, I have an image of John, which perhaps is not out of first-hand experience also with John. Suppose I have directly interacted with John and come to a certain understanding of what kind of man he is. Even that has limitations. But to make matters worse, my picture of John is what I have heard about him from Samuel or Ramesh, Sonia or Vimala, some A or B. All of them have already said so much about John to me. I am yet to meet John. Tomorrow he is coming to see me, but I have already images about John. So these images are so comparable with the description of moksha, description of an ideal state. Karl Marx and others talked about pulling down capitalism, and they promised that an ideal state will come into being. I'm not cornering Karl Marx or Marxism or communism. The capitalists also do the same. They pull down others' political beliefs and say that free economy promoting capitalism lead to happiness. If they had said leads to a lot of wealth with some individuals, that is true. But they said it leads to happiness for the whole country. They claimed, and every philosophy claims, go by our philosophy, you will be happy, the whole society will be happy. Description, more and more description. And when we read a book from many of these philosophies, we are highly likely, 99% chances are, we find some particular book so impressive that we become followers of that particular view of life. So the casualty in this is truth. As images control our life, truth takes a backseat. Fact takes a backseat. The fact is not in front, image is in front. So can it lead to any good at all? The description has actually taken us far away from what is described. A description of an ideal state of the society is not the same as actual state of the society. In like manner, you could apply it intellectually also. We are so filled sometimes with an idea. No. I have thought about it very well. I have studied it deeply, and I know it. We say I know it. Questionable. When you say you know it, do you really know it? Or maybe you have experienced an enjoyable perception of the description. Somebody sometimes claims he has worked on something for last 40 years. I often read on the back cover of books that so and so has already spent 5 decades. 5 decades ago, whether you do anything or do not do anything. Every one of us who at one time was a teenager became 25-year-old, 35-year-old, 45-year-old, and we dabble in so many philosophies. We put our hand into many things. And suppose by chance I have been in the same belief system for some 50 years, I can claim I have for last 50 years gone very deep into this belief system. The fact of the matter is you got old, that's all. And you jumped from one confusion to another, possibly. I don't want to be too negative. So descriptions are often going in circles, not really going deeper into the matter. All right. Are we taking a very negative position towards anything that is good in the world? In fact, a lot of people who try to understand J. Krishnamurti and fail to understand, their mind reacts. Their mind hits back at what he would have said. And they give the opinion that Krishnamurti just negates everything, dismisses everything, dismantles everything, takes away any comfort or support psychologically that we may have. He takes away our support and leaves us in the lurch. That is a criticism leveled against Krishnaji. And some even use the word Krishnamurti is cynical. You know what is being cynical? A cynic is somebody who cannot see anything good anywhere. In education system, in the institution of marriage, in democracy or communism, in so-called friendship, in so-called other relationships, in anything that is, otherwise respected by, if not all, a large number of people. A cynic says, oh, I know there is nothing there. I have seen through it. It is all bandalbaji, something they would say. So people have called Krishnaji a cynic. But you and I, perhaps some of us also went through such phases in the beginning. But somewhere we understand. I will make a couple of comments on this and then conclude my submissions. Somewhere we say, oh, my mind is reacting. My mind is trying to defend a certain belief which I may have had for a length of time. And when Krishnaji's words bring the hammer down on my belief rather than examining if there is any truth in it. I tend to go on the defense. I tend to, pick up my armor, pick up my guard, and hit back. Don't say that about my belief. Don't say that about my religion. Say it about any other religion, not about mine. In this way, we become defensive. So we realize if there is an increased awareness of how our own mind is working, we realize that, hey, I have lost patience and I am on the hitting back mode. Let me not do that. Let me be a little more patient. And that is where we can actually move from the pleasure of description to attending to facts, attending to what actually is, and that opens up a great domain of self-knowing, a great area of fresh insights, original insights, not because of a book or something said in Arabic or Sanskrit, etc., but a fresh insight, an insight perhaps that perhaps comes from some deeper intelligence. We notice what is. We, for example, notice that with all our scholarship, including scholarship in the context of J. Krishnamurti's works and so on, actually we have not been out of, or we have not become free of comparison, competition, wanting to become something, wanting to become somebody, wanting to prove our worth, prove our value, wanting to win over the goodwill or regard of A or B. We have not overcome a certain dependence on some image. We notice. And the best part of that noticing is when we actually notice, it is like, how when the doctor makes the correct diagnosis, that's a major milestone. As long as a doctor has been making wrong diagnosis and trying various medicines with the patient, both the patient and the doctor suffer if the doctor is sensitive. Let us suppose the doctor also is truly concerned. Wrong diagnosis and wrong medicines being given on a trial and error basis. But one fine morning, the doctor diagnoses the ailment of the patient correctly, what actually is wrong with his system. Isn't it a major milestone? Likewise, moving from the pleasure of descriptions, if we pay attention to what our life actually is 24/7, not in front of some audience, not in a party with a soft drink in our hand, well dressed and putting up a smile on our face in get-togethers. And that is a very small part of our life. In the entirety of our life, morning to evening, in fact, one morning to next morning, how have we been? How has my mind been? How have my thoughts been? And you notices out of that seeing, a certain new energy arises. Like right diagnosis leads to right prescription of either medicine or maybe some exercise or maybe psychological healing. Maybe the doctor says, look, you don't need any medicine. Just be more loving towards your wife. You also will get better. She also will get better. You may say, it doesn't have to be some tablets or injection to be taken. So right diagnosis leads to right advice. Likewise, seeing what is and not getting hijacked by some description leads to a great healing within us, where there can be now true sensitivity, true passion, and true energy. And that energy can resolve our conflicts, not the pleasure, I would use the word pleasure, of rosy descriptions of many concepts. Conceptual spirituality cannot take us far. It can actually entrap us. Therefore, I don't mean to come down heavily on the religions of the world, but as has been rightly said, let me make this remark and stop. It has been rightly said by some people that the teachings of J. Krishnamurti are not so much to pull down the religions, rather, they actually make the exponents of different religions much more introspective. Therefore, he has been called at times the teacher of teachers. Religious teachers with the Bible in hand, with Quran in hand, with Dhammapada in hand, with Gita in hand, speak so much to audiences. But to their conscience, who speaks to their conscience? Who speaks to their inner voice? Sometimes some of the disturbing statements of J. Krishnamurti address their conscience after giving a great lecture on the Torah, that is the holy book of Jewish people, as you know. A rabbi gives a great lecture on Torah, comes down the stage, then something inside him speaks to him. And probably he remembers a statement of Krishnaji and then says, "Oh my, I impressed the audience today, but I had to be a bit more careful. I myself went on a high wave. I rode on a high wave of some excitement and spoke something. But really speaking, I was not with the truth or with the fact. I was selling images to them, etc. Email. Let me pause here. Thank you as always for your patient hearing. Namaste.
Harshad sir, would you please say something? Harshad Parekh sir, please say.
Yes. Are you able to hear? Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Swamiji. You have spoken very, very clearly and with giving many impersonal examples about description and the described. I can speak both in favor of description as well as against the description. First, I will speak in favor of description. Like I give an example when Buddha was speaking for the first time to his 5 friends, the first talk, and when Buddha was describing the manner of his realization, how he got enlightened, at that time, out of 5 friends, one friend, Kondana, got it very quickly, and Buddha looked at Kondana's face and said, "Kondana, you have got it." So Buddha was describing the state of his, what happened to him, but while listening, Kondana got it. So it depends on 2 things. One is what is the quality of description and what is the quality of reception. I can say about myself that I was not aware of many of the problems going on in my mind, but when I read the first book of Krishnamurti, and he was describing the problems of human beings. And while reading the book, I begin to see myself clearly, and that begin to help me in uh, in relationship with people around, and I could not get disturbed by many things which were disturbing me. So I would say that description is necessary, but what is the quality of description? When we read commentaries on living, Krishnamurti describes so beautifully, like Rishi Valley. And when I read that, I begin to see Rishi Valley in front of my eyes without going to Rishi Valley. So it depends on two things, the quality of description and the quality of reception by the person who reads or listens. At the same time, we can speak against description because, um, as Krishnaji says, the word is not the thing. And Krishnaji said to one artist who had some problems, he was depressed, and Krishnaji said that the word parrot has blocked you from looking at the thing which flies. So after we get the description, but we cannot see what is behind the word, then that description becomes a block. And once Krishnamurti also said to one man who said that the more we have discussed, more we have debated, the clearer love has become. And then Krishnamurti asked, has love become clear, or what you think about it? So sometimes description may be very, very clear, but one may not know what is behind the word. So the real understanding is not intellectual understanding, like understanding the words and the meaning of the words and connecting one idea with the other idea. That is the way we are studying history, geography, and so many other subjects, science. But in learning about ourselves, uh, if the description does not make us look at ourselves as we are, then that description is meaningless. But a good description and a good reader or listener can begin to look at his own mind very clearly. And then once a person is able to look his own mind clearly, then he may not need to read much because the reading goes on. A person can see directly what is happening, what is unfolding in our mind. So if anger is arising, anger can be seen in the light of awareness. So if a description awakens awareness in us, in which we can see everything non-verbally, then that description has served its purpose. So it depends on, as I said, two things, the quality of description and the quality of reception. Okay, thank you very much.
Swamiji, do you want to comment on this, sir? Swamiji.
Yeah. All I wish to say is Harshadji has definitely added couple of other dimensions of the topic, like the word parrot or some image of parrot can come in the way of seeing the actual parrot. That's a very fascinating revelation or observation by Krishnaji. And as is evident in some other statements by him also, uh, can you can you see the face of your wife tomorrow morning as though you are seeing her for the first time? He would say such things. You know, can you see the face of your daughter, you know, as though you have never met her? So puzzling statements. And lastly, I think the most quoted statement is, can you see a flower without naming it? So all this point out to how we tend to get stuck with images. Once actually I must share with you a simple personal anecdote. Some senior trustee of Krishnamurti Foundation came to Varanasi, Rajghat, and very second day he said to me, we know you to be a great admirer of Rajesh Dalal. I was working with Rajesh Dalal that time. You know, we know that you are a great admirer and you are totally loyal and you are always supporting Rajesh, aren't you? I heard that and I love Rajesh. I am very grateful to him for a lot of things. But to tell you the truth, that particular time for a month or two, I had a conflict with Rajesh, you know, and I was not really cooperating with him in certain matters. So look at how the visiting trustee, very senior person, had an image of Chidananda, me, being almost like right hand of Rajesh Dalal, and that image was because of maybe certain episodes or instances a year before, 2 years before. But at this time, the equations were a bit different. So I'm sure you come across this in your settings also. Somebody has a picture of you based on how you were 5 years ago. Meanwhile, you have changed a lot. Thank you.
Dinesh Waghmare ji.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Very well.
Whatever Chidanandji has said, that applies to Krishnamurti's teachings also. Whatever he has said, people make image of it and then try to work on it. If we go on our tradition also very clearly says, Shastra Prachiti, then there has to be a guru, which explains to that those Shastras, and then Atma Prachiti. Unless, and they say you have to do sadhana, then only you would understand what Shastras are really saying and what Guru is saying. Similarly, Krishnamurti is saying in a different, the expressions are different. That word is not the actuality and description is not the described. This we see in our normal life also. Whosoever say engineer becomes engineer by just getting the degree, but in field he fails because he doesn't have the practical experience. So unless he has got the practical experience, he will not be the successful. This is a common thing, and this is not a very odd thing, or this is not a new thing rather. And even Maharishi Arvind has said a very good comment on this. He said that ज्ञानियों की बात सिर्फ ज्ञानी समझ सकते हैं. Only जो ज्ञानी है वही ज्ञानी की बात समझ सकता है कि क्या है. So unless one has got the experience, and how he will get experience in this particular spiritual field, he has to work on it. He has to see what actually Krishnamurti has said and whether it applies to his life, how it applies to his life, and he has to see the fact, what Swamiji has said. And as far as the image is concerned and the description is concerned, one has to understand that one has to give a right place to it. Say, for example, in case of my wife, she is on Google any recipe and she can make that dish just by seeing the image and the description, because she has got experience in that field. But I am a layman in that field. I cannot make that dish. It is very simple. So unless you have worked on yourself, you have gone for your own self-knowing, you have tried to do some working on yourself, then only probably you can understand what Krishnamurti is saying, or what Shastra or what Guru and Parampara is saying. So it is very clear. So everything has got its right place. You have to put it on the right place. As Harshad sir has said, that there are minus points of description and describe phenomena which we are talking, and there are plus points. So one has to have the right thinking. As JK said, right thinking is very important. And Arvind has said that your buddhi should be very shuddha, means your intellect has to be very purified. Unless your intellect is purified, you cannot move ahead. So this is what I want to say. Thank you.
Pradeep Verma, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes. Am I audible, Swamiji?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So very interesting and pretty complicated topic. Beautiful topic. The description and described. I state it like this. I am present in all the states, including the two mentioned in today's topic. My presence colors what I perceive. Or we can say self is there under the spell of intellect in either case. Question is whether these are words. Obviously, yes. Here, source of words makes all the difference. If it is coming from horse's mouth, sorry for using this usage, horses, then words as sound and silence is included in that, then it may have a direct impact and full communication. But if words are there from archives or some other storage system, interpreted n number of times, then it may get distorted, and it does get. Semantics plays a very big role here. Semantics, a branch of linguistics, logic, and meaning, does so many things in what we see as what we think we know or what we know and all that. The question is, even described is about some reality which the observer has taken to be real, described. There is a self behind both description and the described. This self may be conditioned like mine, or is supposedly realized. Supposedly, because I don't know exactly, although they have given symptoms of a realized person, how will you find out and all that. But then again, I come in all the cases. I am always there. So this is whether this complicates or whatever it is, but self is there in all these cases. We may ascribe, we may say that that self is selfless. But again, that is what I am stating. So this is all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Prasad, sir.
Well, the topic, today's topic, reminds me of what Acharya Rajneesh said once. He said, I am pointing at the moon and you are getting lost. You are just looking at my finger. You are not looking at the moon. So like that, we tend to be lost in the description instead of trying to see what is behind the description or what the description is really pointing at. That is actually, we have no other means of looking at the moon except trying to look in the direction which is in which the finger is pointing. What I'm trying to say is, description is the only means for us to think of the ultimate reality or whatever it is. But when we think that the vocabulary or words or the end, then we are lost. Most of us Hindus, we recite the Sahasranama of Vishnu, Vishnu Sahasranama. We are just reciting and we are happy to listen to that sound. We are mesmerized by the sound. I think Swamiji today has tried to point out the dangers of that approach, the risk of that approach. We have to see that the description is only a means of understanding the described. The described is the flower, the actual flower. Description is the word flower, like that. And I'm also reminded of Rajesh Dalal ji, who was a man who was so terribly dedicated to Krishnamurti's teachings and all that. He was very highly enthusiastic. But then it tells me that being enthusiastic by itself is not a sufficient or all that. I can understand if Swamiji had some difference of opinion on some point with Rajesh Dalal, because it is not very easy to get along with him or to agree with him on all aspects. Anyway, thank you, sir.
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is a paradox that we are using words to say the word is not the thing. So ultimately, we are all of us are using words, Swamiji, me, Prasadji, everybody is using the word and saying, and also Krishnaji has used so many words, million words to say the word is not the thing. But I feel that, yes, the words which come from insight, from clarity, such words affect some human beings who are very sensitive to catch the meaning behind the words. So words are important, description is important, but it may also prevent some people, and they can get carried away by the description and not really get the real meaning behind the word. Okay, I have said. Thank you.
Shakti ji, please unmute yourself. Shakti ji, please unmute yourself. Dr. S.N. Bajaj, do you want to say something? Shakti ji, please unmute yourself. Shakti is not able to unmute. Anybody else wants to say something about the quality of the description and quality of the described, or who is receiving the description?
Can I say something here?
Yes, you and Arshad sir, you both can clarify on this. Yes, sir. Waghmare,
So
sir.
my question to Swamiji is, if description has got very little meaning, then what Krishnamurti was doing for 50, 60 years? So we have to place the things at the right place, isn't it? Swamiji.
Yeah, see, he has clarified his position on that. He has said in his own words that whatever he spoke is not about describing something, it's about showing the limitations of description, it is about negating the power of the word. So people said to him, you have been giving lectures for decades. Are you not another guru? Are you not another authority? He then very patiently said, please carefully study whatever books have come out or my lectures. Unlike other gurus who say, follow me, I actually explicitly say, don't follow me. So there is a difference. In spite of it, many are not convinced. But I personally, let me tell you personally what my view is. Once in a while, Krishnamurti does describe or does point out, like the example of
Rajneesh.
finger showing the moon, Here and there, Krishnaji does point out something, but that is kept at the bare minimum. His main effort, his love of labor of love, is all about helping you let go of your habitual processes. Rather than giving you another habit, rather than saying, do this every morning and you will be a transformed man, rather than making that kind of promise, he rather questions, and helps us let go. Therefore, the thrust, I won't say 100% he is into negation only, but the main thrust is negation, not giving a solution on the platter before you. And some places, whatever he has said in a positive language, may be more on the functional level. For example, he may say, with regard to a school should have a lot of acres of land, there should be greenery, there should be enough space for children to play about. This is all functional thing, it's not psychological domain, right? So if he talks about food or about clothes or about vehicles, there are thousands of things which are gross and physical, You and I can imagine if we were to go with some dress which is not ironed, Krishnamurti may use the word should, he may use. You should wear properly ironed clothes, my dear, he may say. But if properly ironed clothes is functional, physical, gross, but he would never say, you should be free of envy. So that is not his highlight. He would rather say, have you examined your envy? He would question.
Harshad sir.
Yeah, yes. We are all using language, and this language is because our brain has developed more than animals and birds. We have invented language, And this language has helped us very much in making our life more comfortable, like science and mathematics. All that depends on language. And but so we have now animals have instinct for survival. We are using intellect, and this intellect can help us in solving problems of physical nature, like exploiting matter. But this intellect can be harmful in understanding ourselves as we are, because we have to really not use thinking, but something different, what Krishnamurti calls awareness or intelligence. And when that awareness or intelligence is not awakened, then it becomes very difficult even to understand what Krishnamurti is saying and to understand ourselves as we are. So our difficulty is that we have language, we have words, but we don't know what is behind the word, and that requires intelligence or awareness. And Krishnamurti is always talking about awareness, which can look at everything as it is. And without that, it becomes very difficult, and the description can lead us into the wrong direction without awareness. Okay, finish.
Pradeep
Uh,
Verma, sir.
Can I say
Yes, sir.
something?
Yes, Waghmare.
Sir, my observation on this is many times he said, "Are you listening to me? Are you with me? Are we together?" So when he says, "Are you listening to me?" definitely he means by the words and the description. And of course, he says that further, "Are you in communion with us? Are you with me on non-verbal level?" That's a different thing altogether, and that's one step ahead. That's what I think. But initially he says, "Are you listening to me?" And once if somebody listens to him, he says, "If you are listening with your full heart, with your full body, with your full of your identity, then you may get it." So definitely listening has to be done of description. Thank you.
Pradeep Verma, sir.
Yes, audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Although Harshad ji has raised this point to a certain extent recently, just now, it's a question of word, it's a question of language, and what I said, semantics, and the meaning, word meaning. So words are used to be familiar with the person with whom I am conversing, I am communicating. So these words are used to connect with the person you are concerned. And what words denote is toward the silence, from where they came. So words ultimately going beyond the words means towards silence. So that's why those people, when they speak, they use silence beautifully. All the effective speakers, they use beautifully silence while delivering anything. So we have to be careful about this. And Dinesh just talked about together. So this is how they come together, through words, through language. You understand, we all understand in common. Usually you find that it has become difficult for certain people who are not very well off in English literature to understand JK to start with. And translations or transliteration is invariably, it cannot communicate with that simplicity if it is not your language. So this is what happens. So the words are important only to connect with the person. other person, so-called other. So this is what all I have to say. Thank you.
Arun Partha, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So actually, this very nice topic. What I felt is like, see, word is as such, has got its own kind level of energy. See, in my life also, what I've seen is, I don't know about other people's life, but what I've seen is a few good words, when you use, when you're talking to somebody or somebody who's in a very down state, who's undergoing a lot of suffering and pain, when you really talk and use some good words and we are able to connect with someone to that level, that communion happens where that person also feels very happy at that moment, and suddenly he's able to change his energy level itself. That is one point. So word definitely has some kind of energy which itself is very powerful. And if you look at it, sometimes what happens is, even in the past also, we have heard a lot of things about these rishis and munis and all that. They used to use words, and they could create something suddenly from some nowhere. No, we have heard a lot of stories of it. It might be a story, but it looks very practical also. And even we have heard spiritual leaders like Jesus Christ or Buddha or whatever, they had that energy where probably somebody who is not even able to, he has some ailment, they used to say, just get up and walk, and they used to walk. So if you look at all these things, we can see that a word can really get in very deep into you and can completely transform yourself. So I think word behind the word, I don't know about it right now, what Krishna ji is saying, because I've also heard Krishna ji saying that no description can ever describe the origin. So basically, I've always connected description related to some origin which is there, but I've never understood really like behind this word what it is that. Though we say flower is not, I've tried many to be very practical. I don't hide anything. I've been trying. I've gone to parks also and tried many times. Can I see something, the flower without the description and all that? But for me, it has never happened. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Swamiji, some comments, sir.
Yes. Yeah, I fully appreciate what Arun Partha has said. That is how, these Indore dialogues are through words. Otherwise, we would have sat quietly for 1 hour and Sushil Jain would be upset about it. He would say to everybody, kuch bolo na, he would say. We would sit silently, whereas we all use words. So my summary response is, words have a lot of grace, lot of power, lot of glory about them. Words can take us certainly up to a certain point, no denying of it. But Krishnaji talks about beyond that point. There are some advanced forms of understanding where it is not words, where we let go of words and we need to see the thing as it is. So he is talking about an advanced phase. In the Vedanta also we say, giving the example of pole vault. An athlete takes the pole, runs a distance, plants it on the soil, goes to a height, and at the right time he leaves the pole behind and lands on the other side. So the pole does serve a purpose. Words do serve a purpose. Therefore, Krishnaji himself went from place to place and spoke, but he was one of the excellent communicators who would show where words reach their limits and a non-verbal and direct seeing has to take charge of the situation. So words definitely have great power. All of us, in fact, many of us, lifelong we try to improve our communication, because words, if not properly delivered, can result in misunderstanding. So we take great care, but we should also know that there are certain things where words have to take a back seat. So no denying of the power of words, grace of words, the healing touch of words. You gave a very nice example. You could be calling from Indore and speaking to somebody in Toronto, Canada, and after 5 minutes of your talk, that the person in Toronto could feel so good. Your 5 minutes call can make make her so happy. Your words did have the power, no doubt.
Jain sir, do you want to say something?
You are saying to me?
Yes.
Wonderful. I just wanted to say there is no listening with identity. Whatever Waghmare talked about, I was surprised to know, is there any listening through identity? Number one. Number two, I don't believe that listening is of the words. Listening is not the hearing. He means that please don't hear it, please listen it. Listen it, matlab, just go deep into it, beyond words, or where it is indicating, you should see that. That is what I feel. Waghmare wanted to reply me, please.
Yes, Jain Saab, JK has said many times himself,
Yeah.
are you listening to me like you're listening to music, or you are listening to me like you are listening to a lecture? So there is a difference. When you listen to music, the entire different things are happening. The total phenomena is different. When you listen like music, in that your ego doesn't come into picture. Your all background doesn't come into picture. That's what my understanding is, of course. Another thing, Vedant, in Vedant they say, in any word, it has got 4 different meanings. One is dictionary meaning, which they call it Shabdarth. One is dictionary meaning or the root meaning, as many times JK has also said, etymological or whatever that meaning is. Another is Vacharth. What common understanding about that word is. That is Vacharth. Third is Lokarth. Lokarth means what the local people or local meaning people have given to it in a particular area or a particular domain or a particular place. And last is Laksharth. Laksharth means what the person or the speaker wants to say, or what he wants to point out, or what he is aiming at. Say, for example, Aham Brahmasmi. Doesn't mean my ego or my myself is Brahma. This doesn't mean I am Brahma. They say whatever the essence you are made of, the essence of the whole universe is the same. So the meaning can be different as per the other people said. It depends on who is listening. So Harshad sir has said that the listener should also have the patrata. What in Hindi this thing they say,
Ability.
patrata means, or Shastra say that he should be also has done that much preparation to understand the exact meaning. Thank you.
Sir, whatever you said with a view.
Yes, definitely. It will be from my perception only.
Let me complete,
Yes.
sir. I have listened to you a lot. You have to keep it aside. Whatever you know, you have to keep it aside. That is the real meaning of the listening. Whatever you know, keep aside. Keep aside and then listen. That is what. If you know so many things, you can't listen. Just let me complete it, please. Please let me complete it. I never say more than that.
Please.
Whatever you say is full of knowledge, full of everything. But is it required to listen something? If you wanted to listen something, you have to keep everything aside, including ego or your view or your knowledge. Everything should be put aside and then listen. That is what is the real meaning. If you quote so many things, they remain quotes only. Nothing goes inside. Because you tally it with that, whatever Vedant has said, whatever other people have said, whatever Shastra has said, that has got no meaning. You have to keep all this aside and then listen. That is what I understand. My understanding may be not of
Can I give reply to this, sir?
Yes.
Can I give reply to this?
Vermaji has said yes, yes, yes.
Sir,
Yes,
my
see,
personal views are whatever you have
pertinent.
assimilated as JK's words, now those have become your words because you have understood it, you have experienced it, you have gone through it, and now it has become your words, not JK's words. Okay, since you are expressing your gratitude towards the speaker who has said earlier, say JK or Shastra. You are just expressing your gratitude, or you are just remembering him because you are having some fascination. Like Harshad sir many times quote Kabir and other Mira. So this is a sort of just expressing gratitude towards the original speaker. Thank you.
You don't have to have attitude. Number one thing one should understand. Even if a gratitude is
Okay.
attitude, even if gratitude is a attitude, then it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
No, I am having lot of gratitude about you also, sir, because of your
No.
so many
It
efforts
doesn't.
and your
It does
we
not
are in
do-
dialogue
It does
at
not
this
do
level.
anything. It does not do anything to me.
Shakti
My
sir,
praise or my no praise
Anyway,
hardly
sir.
matters to me.
thanks, sir.
What matters to me is what you are saying. Just tell me what is the listening with identity. You said it. Just listen back. If you
I
listen
can
with
only say that we
identity,
are, sir, the love between us matters. We may have difference of opinions, but the
if
love
it
between us matters.
if
Thank
it
you.
matters, it is not love. If it matters, it is not love.
See, I
That is the
cannot
ultimate.
win argument with you.
Because
No,
love is
I am
not
not
matter.
argumentative. Not
Love is
not
not
I am
matter.
not argumentative. I am just saying what I understand.
Shakti sir.
I salute to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I salute to you.
Shakti sir.
That will
Shakti sir,
work.
please unmute.
That will work.
Shakti sir, can you unmute yourself? Harshad sir, some comments. Last
Yeah.
remark, something like that.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
finish it. You have to finish it, Harshad sir. Only 3
Yes.
minutes are left.
Yes. Yes. What Sushil ji said, that how we listen, how we listen, how we speak, how we look, everything is important because, as Krishna ji says, and I should not say this, but freedom is necessary to listen. And if we listen with previous knowledge, then that knowledge interferes what we are listening. So is it possible to listen with silence? And that is the art of listening. And similarly, can we look without the images? Even to look at Krishnamurti, because I feel that people have images about Krishnamurti, and so if Krishnamurti is walking with somebody else, everybody looks at Krishnamurti and doesn't even know who is walking with Krishnamurti. So our looking is conditioned, our listening is conditioned, and it requires freedom. And in that state of freedom, when a person listens to Buddha or Krishnamurti or somebody, it really clicks and said, yes, there is some real understanding happens and some kind of awareness is ignited. And then maybe it's not necessary to listen, but one can listen to anybody, not only Krishnamurti. One can listen to the servant or one's wife. How we listen is very important, and not giving so much importance only to some people listening. And sometimes people, when they read something, they look at whose name is at the bottom, and if they find that the name is Osho, then they said, no, I don't want to read that. So it is a kind of conditioning. So
Yes.
how we listen without knowing who is speaking and who has written. So when I read Krishnamurti's book, I did not know whether he was who he was, but I found that yes, what he says is very beautiful. And so I think how we read, how we look, how we listen, everything is important and requires a freedom at the beginning. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's already
Thank
7:30.
you. Thank you.
So we end it. Thank you very much.
Thanks also.
Thanks to all participants. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.